And welcome to this lecture. Today we want to talk about building a WordPress website. As you know that there are a lot of websites out there in the internet that they are using WordPress template for the based website, and then they can customize the WordPress to add more and more details to their website. So WordPress, it's one of the well-known websites templates out there. If you just search for the WordPress in the Google, you can see that this is a free and open source content management system based on PHP and MySQL. So this is a good candidate. Actually, we can use this one to build a website in our AWS infrastructure, and we can use this one for different purposes. And even I've seen a lot of companies, small businesses, that they want to have a very simple websites and they want to run it something like WordPress. So this could be really useful for companies to have a very simple website. So let's get started. I have 3 different approaches to build a WordPress website for you inside the AWS. So the first option is Lightsail. As you can see here, if you go to the AWS Management Console, inside the compute part, we have Lightsail. And we talked a little bit about this one before, but it's just a simple way of running virtual private servers. And this is not an advanced configuration. It's a really basic, and it's for the people that they don't want to have difficulties going through the EC2 configurations. Let's check out this one and see how we can spin up a WordPress website and start using our first website. So just click on the Lightsail, and the console is really easy. At the very beginning, it asks you for your language. I'm going to select English and click on save. It just say welcome to the Lightsail. I'm just going to click on let's get started. Basically, this is just like a form that you can fill in the form and you can have whatever you want. So at the very beginning, ask for your location, and we are aware that this means that it is asking for the region and availability zone. By default, it is Oregon Zone A, US West 2A, and I like this one. I want to stick with this one, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to click on the change to see how this is going to work. As you can see, it's more user friendly, and it's more, but there are pictures here and you can easily read them. There are even countries, flags for better understanding of what are you doing. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to stick with the Oregon, but you can change this one to different regions, and based on the regions that you're changing, then the type of instances that you can choose, they're going to be different. So this is going to take some time, and then you can see all the details. I'm going to go back to the US West 2. So this is going to be my location. Actually, this is the place that I am going to build my web server. Then I'm going to scroll down. It is asking for me to pick your instance image. You can choose between Linux, Unix, and Microsoft Windows. So if you select these ones, then you have different images down here. And it is interesting that the images, it's OS only or application plus operating system. For example, for the Microsoft, we can just spin up Windows Server 2012 R2 or Windows Server 2016. If we click on the app and OS, we can see that even we can run SQL Express edition on the Windows, which is pretty useful. So it's going to give you the SQL Express inside the Windows one at a time with one shot, and you don't need to install the Windows, you don't need to take care of the installation of the SQL, and you will have both of them at the end of the day. For today's lecture, I'm going to select Linux and Unix, and if I select OS only, you can see there are different versions of Linux flavors that we can spin up. Again, if you want to, let's say, just spin up a CentOS, this is a very user-friendly console that you can use, or you can give this one to people with basic knowledge of the network and securities and the infrastructure, and they can easily spin up whatever they like. I'm going to click App plus OS, and we have multiple applications here that we can leverage them and we can start using them. And by default, the first one is WordPress, and I want to use actually this one, but you can see there are multiple other applications, and there's LAMP for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP that we can use this one for also building the WordPress, but I'm going to talk about this one later. And different other applications. We have Ples hosting stack on Ubuntu that we can use this one for managing our website, and lots of vendors, lots of providers are using the Plesk for management of their web servers, and they will give access to the end user. Anyway, so select Linux and select App plus OS and just select WordPress, and the WordPress version that we are going to use is 4.9.8. Down here, it is optional. You can add launch scripts, and you can change SSH keeper if you want to access directly to your WordPress website. So I'm going to stick with the default one for now. I don't really want to change this. At the bottom, then it's your instance plan, and it's really easy here in compare of the instance types that we had in the EC2 instances. We can sort them by price per month, or the amount of memory that we can use, or the amount of processor, storage, or transfer of the data. But here, if I put it on the price per month, the cheapest one that I can use is this one. I'm going to stick stick with this. Actually by default it is selected, and you can scroll down, give a name to your instance and the number of instance that you want to spin up. I'm going to stick with 1. And if you want to put any tags, you can put also the tags here. So you can put a tag for your EC2 instance, for example, WordPress. And also you can create key values and tags if you like before, for example, name, and I give it a WordPress also here, just as a test. Let's click on the create instance. And this is just a matter of time. We have to wait a little bit and we will see that after a while, it's going to build the EC2 instance for us with the application installed inside it. And as you can see, this one is pending. I'm going to pause this video for a while and come back later to see what will happen. After a couple of minutes, now you can see that the state of this Lightsail machine is running, and we can see this is in Oregon zone A, and this is the IP address of this instance here. One thing that I want to emphasize here is that if I go to my AWS management console and if I go to the EC2 instance, and I want to make sure that we are in the same region, we are in the US West Oregon, it's the same region as our Lightsail is right now running. It is in Oregon also. If I go to the running instance, I'm not seeing anything running here. So Lightsail is not exactly same as the EC2 instances. This is another kind of services that is running inside the AWS infrastructure for us, and we can leverage this one to build user-friendly machines, and we can start using them easily. So let's look at the different tabs that we have here. So we have the instance, we have some details related to the instance here. We have the databases. As you may know, this WordPress application, it is using a database. Usually it's MySQL, for example. Database is most of the time installed inside the instance. That's why we are not seeing any separate database here. But if you have any database, you can create that database, or you can use this console to manage that database also. Another thing is the networking tab. If I go to a networking tab, it's the same idea here. You can see it says you have no network resources right now, but you can create a static IP addresses, you can create DNS zone, and you can create load balancers here also in the Lightsail. So in a nutshell, you can see that we have same idea inside the AWS console, but this is going to be more user friendly. You can easily create a static IP address here, and you can select the instance that you are running right now, which is the WordPress, and you can just give a name to your static IP address and you can create a static IP address. And it says static IP addresses are free only while attached to an instance, and you can manage 5 at no additional cost. And if you remember, we had a limitation of 5 also on the elastic IP addresses before. This is one of the settings that we can use for Lightsail instance. If I go back to the home, also for the storage, you can create disks for your instance inside the Lightsail. Again, this is going to be your location and the size of your disk. You can give it an identifier and you can create it for your instance. Going back to the home, we can create also snapshots related to our instance inside the Lightsail. This is the place that we can see them, but basically from the management of the instance here, we can take the snapshots. Let's see what kind of options do we have here. First of all, we have create an instance. If I click on this one, I'm going back to the same page that we've already been here, and we created our instance. So we can create more instances here. If I click on the WordPress itself, it shows me another menu that it gives me some details related to my instance. This is the IP address of our instance, and this is the username that we can connect to our EC2 instance, and we can connect through the SSH. If I click connect through the SSH, so I am inside my instance. So I don't need to have any clients right now here. This is pretty user friendly, and I can easily run whatever command I want to run inside my Linux machine. So I'm going to close this one, and this is my IP address. I can copy this IP address. I can actually go to this IP address. Let's see what we'll see here, and voila, this is a web blog, and this is the home page of the WordPress. This is powered by WordPress, and you can see easily we're able to use this one, and you can start customizing it and start using it. Easily we can access it with the SSH connection. Easily we can see the website and start managing it. There is a WordPress getting started guide here. If you click on this one, it will give you all the information that how you can actually start using your WordPress. If you've ever worked with the WordPress, so it's a content management, and you need to log into the WordPress platform in order to be able to add more pages or more blogs, for example. So in this case, as you can see here, we need to get the default application password for our WordPress to be able to log into it. And it gives you step by step how you can get this password. It's really, really easy. I'm just going to show you. You need to connect with the SSH. The step 1 is connecting through the SSH. And then there is a file called, in this case, bitnami application password. And you need to see the content of this file. If you check the content of this file, that's going to be your password. I'm going back to the console, connect using the SSH. And when I am inside the system, I just run cat bitnami application password and I'm hitting enter. This is the password for my WordPress. And I can copy this one. Actually, it's on my clipboard right now. And I can go back to the WordPress website. Actually, I have to open the tab again. So this is my WordPress. And you can log into your WordPress with /wp-admin. And then it is asking for their username. The username is user and the password. I'm going to paste it here and hit login. So you can see now we are inside the WordPress dashboard, and I don't want to talk about the WordPress, but this is the way that now you can manage it. With this user, you have full administrative access to the WordPress and you can start using it. So make sure that you are reading the step-by-step guide here. So this was the password. I got the password from this file through the SSH, and the default username is user. So try this one and you should be able to go inside and you can read all of these documentations here. So another thing that I want to show you, I just removed that instance and I created 2 other instances for just testing purposes, and I want to show you that you can create multiple instances here and they can run beside each other with different IP addresses. So if I'm going to click back on one of these ones, so we already talked about this menu and the IP addresses and the username. Just for the recap, this is the IP address of this instance, which is a new one because I've already created a new instance, and this username is for SSH to this instance. But when you click here, you can directly go to the terminal and it will do the auto login for you. So you don't need to put the bitnami username for the SSH connection, but this is technically the user account that is trying to log into this machine with the SSH key. Moving forward, we have other tabs here. If this is your instance that is running here with 512 megabyte of RAM, 1 vCPU, and 20 gigabyte of SSD disks, which you can see it from here, and this is your region and availability zone. Then we have storage. This is the disk. This is the 20 gigabyte of disk, 20 gigabyte of SSD that you can see it from here. You can create new disk and you can attach that new disk to your instance easily, and you can see the amount of money that you need to pay for your instances. In terms of the metrics, you can see what is your CPU utilizations, network in, network out, and a bunch of other stuff here. So it's pretty good for monitoring, and you have time period and you can select them. In terms of the networking, this is your public IP address, and then you have a private IP address, and you can create this as a static IP address. Also, we have the firewall, we have SSH, HTTP, and HTTPS right now. You can easily edit rules here, and you can easily add another rule. So it's pretty easy and user friendly. Also, we have the load balancing, which you can also use this one based on your scenario. In the snapshot tab, you can easily give it a name and you can create a snapshot. In this case, you have a snapshot of this instance and you can use this snapshot later. Tags, if you remember, we've already bought the tags before, and the history, it will show you what is going on, what is happening with this instance, time of the creation, and what we did with this one, and you can easily delete this instance. So you have somehow full access over this instance. It's a little bit different from the EC2 management console. This is very, very user friendly, and it is not for the advanced users. The AWS console is much more advanced, and you can do a lot of more stuff over there. So if I go back to the home page, then you can see all of your instances. If you have multiple databases, you can see all of them. Anything related to networking, you can see it from here. This is the place that you can create the load balancer. And storage, actually, again, the same idea. And snapshots, we have one snapshots on the instances, and it is in a creating state. These are all the settings that you can start using for managing your instances. One thing that I want to mention at the end is this Lightsail console is completely different from the one that you're seeing inside the AWS. You can see we have our account here. If I click on in my account, so it seems that it's created one account for me. I have my own profile, I have my own SSH key here, and I have some settings related to this location. This is just a very, very basic and user-friendly console in order for basic user to build some instances. And you can click here. This is gonna redirect you to the AWS console, or there's another one called billing. If you click on this one, you will go to your billing inside the AWS console. So this is gonna be a separate console. Don't forget this. At the end today, so for deleting and cleaning up, I go back to the home, and you can easily select your instances one by one and just select delete. And I'm going to say yes here for the first one, and for the second one I'm doing the same thing, and they're all gone. Okay, that's it, and I'll see you in the next lecture for building another WordPress with the AWS marketplace.